Hi, everyone. Welcome to Daily Revelations. So, the question this morning is, what are you looking for? And what are you spending your time searching for? Why does that question come up? Because as I was in Proverbs 2 and Acts 6 today, those two things kind of merged and made me think about, what am I actually spending my time looking for? Am I looking for actual truth, or am I looking for a way to prove my own assumptions and validate what I thought to be true, but didn't really want to be questioned about it? That's kind of the way that we turn. It's easier to say, well, this is what I think is true, and I'm going to do all I can to prove that what I think is true, instead of saying, what is the real truth? Am I willing to be corrected? Am I willing to search for something that proves me wrong? Because I want truth above just what I think is right. That's hard, because ingrained in us is this need to say what I think is right, and the assumptions that I have are true, instead of saying, prove me wrong. And I am willing to be exposed for all of the untruth that I've been living in. That's vulnerable, isn't it? But that's the way God asks us to live. In Proverbs 2, it says this: make your ear attentive to wisdom. Listen. Don't listen to what's going on in here. Listen to what's coming out, what I'm saying. Incline your heart to understanding, real truth. For if you cry for discernment and lift your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as hidden treasure. I read this on those fanatical shows where there's people searching for hidden treasure, and you think, how ridiculous. But yet, if there's treasure to be found, is it really ridiculous when God says, seek it like you're seeking a treasure, because the treasure is there. We don't seek for treasure that doesn't exist. We seek for treasure that does. So why don't we put our effort towards that? Because he says, and then you will discern the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. You'll find it. It's to be found, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. But he asks us first to seek it. We have to open our hearts to receiving his truth, his knowledge, his wisdom over our own, and be willing to say, my assumptions were wrong. And God, I give that over to you. I choose not to seek my own will, but yours. I seek not my own truth, but yours. Something that's more than what I'm just happily comfortable in believing. Because what God has for me is better. And it will expand to a greater knowledge, to a greater understanding, to a more perfect life in him. So how does this relate to Acts 6? Well, Stephen is introduced into the biblical narrative as someone who was beyond reproach in wisdom. And there were people who tried to oppose him. But it says, but they were unable to cope with the wisdom and the spirit with which he was speaking, because he chose to seek what God's truth was, not just the assumptions that people were making. He sought truth and he spoke it. And there was no combating it, because what he was saying was the ultimate truth. It was what God had given him. And so these people from this synagogue, they argued with him. That didn't work. They accused him, and then they stirred up the people to oppose him. And we know, as what will happen in the coming chapters that I'll probably be talking about tomorrow, is that Stephen became the first martyr for the Christian movement. And he determined to stand in the truth that God showed him. So, what about us? Do we fanatically seek what's really true? Or do we dig up enough to prove our assumptions and say, well, I'm good with that, and this is where I will settle and be happy? So those are the questions that I have stirring before me, because oftentimes I prefer to settle, which is not good. And God is showing that to me, that you have to be willing to dig for my truth. You have to be willing to look like sometimes a fool to those on the outside. And you have to be willing to stand in my truth when opposition comes. And only if you are based and your feet are fully planted in my truth, can you stand up to that? It's not going to be based on your assumptions and what you think is right or wrong. It's what is truly right, wrong, and what I say is true. So hopefully that stirs the pot a little bit for you today, and thinking about, what do I assume? What do I seek for? What do I fanatically say I'm going to look for no matter what, because this matters. And it matters more than just me proving I'm right or wrong, but it matters that what I say and how others take what I say and use it in their own lives, it affects the entire kingdom. And I'm accountable for that. So I want to say what's true and what's right. So be encouraged. God is the source of all wisdom and knowledge, and in him we can find that. And he gives it freely. He just asks that we look for it. So be encouraged, and I will see you again tomorrow on Daily Revelations. Bye, everybody.